Alright, just a short tutorial on Photoshop today. So often, certainly with interiors, we want to put a display like a Netflix or a film on a TV screen or a projector screen like this. And even if, this projector in this case wasn't actually on anyway, but even if it is, it often doesn't come out properly in photographs because it's underexposed and because the camera's looking at the exposure. We want to get the exposure of the room right, not focusing on the screen. So often you need to do that afterwards in Photoshop. So all we're going to do here is from Lightroom, I've just loaded the image into Photoshop. So it's just come up as the standard background layer. I've got a Netflix main screen image that I've just downloaded from the internet. So I'm just going to drag that in. As I drag that into the project, then it will automatically create a new layer on top. We can move it around. So it's a bit big for a start, so we want to make that a bit smaller. Now what we want to do is we want to fit it to this screen because it's not the right shape. So this is completely rectangular. This is not because it's got a perspective distortion and it wasn't quite upright anyway. So rather than try and transform it, what we do is we distort it and then we can just drag each corner into the right place. So let's get one corner there, one there. We can always adjust it afterwards if it's not quite right because it's gone a bit mad there because that one should have done that one first. That one's going to be about there. I'm just using the other edge of the screen to work out where that one should be because I can't see the bottom right corner of the screen because it's obscured by this exercise machine. So can make that a bit bigger. Let me zoom in a little bit. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't need to be exact. In this case, if it's a TV, you need it to be exact, but projectors are always a bit off anyway, so actually it doesn't really matter if it's not quite right anyway. So we're going to hit enter on that, which applies that transform. Now, one thing we need to do is that it's too bright. We can see it's too garish. It looks a bit fake here. So what we're going to do is apply a curves adjustment to the Netflix main screen layer. Now, what we want to do is we don't want to adjust everything underneath this adjustment. We want it just to clip to this next layer underneath. So we're going to hit the clipping icon there. And now we can adjust this. Now, what you would find is that the blacks aren't going to be very black if it was in reality. If it was shot accurately with the camera, then those blacks aren't going to be totally deep like that. So let's lift those up a bit. Contrast would be quite low probably, but that's absolutely fine because that's enough for us to see what's on the screen without it being too obviously painted on. Now, the observant amongst you will notice that this exercise bike has now dropped behind the screen, the Netflix display, which obviously is not correct. So to fix that, we just need to cut out this part of the exercise bike. So I'm just going to duplicate the base layer. Let's hide Netflix for a moment just so we can see what's going on. So I've got a duplicate of that layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the object selection tool up here, and I'm just going to draw around that object, or I could have just clicked it because it's showing that it would have gone pink anyway. So that's selected that object. Now, if I hit mask down here, it will mask that layer. Now, if I turn off the one underneath, it doesn't look like it's done anything, but if I turn off the one underneath, we can see I've just got that bit now. So all I need to do is turn Netflix back on and drag that bit up above it and move that one down because we want the curves adjustment just to affect the Netflix screen. So there we go. And that looks pretty good to me. That's absolutely fine. That looks real enough that it's not drawing your attention to it. And if you've got 50 images to do like this, then you haven't got time to spend too much more on this, and that's absolutely fine. What I do want to do is remove some of this clutter back here. We've got quite a lot of clutter back here. The owners of this property just were really racing to get all the rooms ready, and so there's quite a bit of stuff that's not quite tidied up. So I've selected all of that clutter. I'm just going to do generative fill, but without anything in the prompt, and that should use generative fill, but take out everything in the image. That's what it normally does. It might replace it with a demon child from the underworld, we don't know, but usually it gets it pretty much right. So let's have a look and see what it does. There we go. That one's good enough for me. That middle one is just duplicated what's here. I'm going to, as I'm here anyway, let me just remove that, whatever that little artifact is from the previous AI. And once that's out the way, then we're pretty much good to go. So let's just check it does that. Yeah, that's fine. Once I'm happy with an image, I don't want to come back and have to edit it. So I want to flatten it, because otherwise all of those layers take up a huge amount of space on disk. And if we're never going to come back and re-edit it, then we don't need them. So let's just flatten it down to one layer, close that image, hit save, and that will take it back to Lightroom with this new image in place. Oh, I've got another one to do here. Can you bear watching it again? That's the question. This one's a bit easier because it doesn't have anything blocking the view like we did before. Put that in there. Where's that? Where's the corner of the screen? There it is. And the corner of that one's there. Let's just bring this all in a little bit. That'll do. And then add hit enter to apply the transform, add the curves adjustment like I did before. Let's lift those blacks up, clip it to just the Netflix. That's fine. And then we will just remove that, all those objects on the table. Oh, I'll take the chair as well, I think, in this case. Let's get whatever that is, don't know what it is. Let's get the edge of the chair. We want to avoid any text. We want to be careful taking text out. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but if you try and remove text, it often replaces it with alien text, which makes no sense, just hieroglyphics, which look a bit weird. So generative fill with no prompt, just to say, try and remove it, please. And try not to replace it with a waste bin or a large potted plant that looks crazy, which it can do sometimes. So sometimes it takes a few goes at this. There we go, that'll do, happy with that. It's added a little something there, but it's absolutely fine. In this particular image compared with the last one, that's small enough that I'm not bothered about that. Right, so going to do that one and save that one. I've flattened it again to get rid of all those extra layers, and that's it. Now, all of these techniques are taken from the Photoshop Unleashed online course. You can buy the course now and you'll receive an email when those first few modules arrive. So there's a link below to get that course. And like all of the Unleashed courses, it doesn't launch straight into this level of stuff. It starts talking about navigating around the interface, what the different tools do, how layers work, how masks work, how blend modes work, how transforms work, how selections work, and all the base toolkit that we need to allow us to do much more complex things. So the Photoshop Unleashed online course is available now to purchase. Get hold of that and you'll be able to be an expert in everything to do with Photoshop. Thanks very much. See you next time.